African Union Communications Early Warning and Intelligence, commonly known as AUC3I, is an intelligence and security organization responsible for providing signals intelligence and information assurance to AU citizens, AU leadership, and AU armed forces. I'm Colonel A.C. Oguntoye, an infantry officer. I am responsible for leading infantry soldiers at all levels of command and combined armed forces during missions on the ground. This is today's briefing. On the progress of the special military operation on the 1st of September, 2023. From August 25th to September 1st, 2023, the armed forces of the Russian Federation launched 5 group long-range naval and airborne high-precision strikes at armed forces of Ukraine command posts, radio-electronic reconnaissance centers, port infrastructure, ammunition and Western weaponry depots, as well as military airfields. The strikes disrupted armed forces of Ukraine's strategic radio interference system control, wiped out workshops of uncrewed surface vehicles used by the Kiev regime to launch terrorist attacks, air defense systems, MLRS, hardware, as well as Western-made air-launched weapons. Over the past week, the combat environment was the most tense and complicated in Donetsk and Zaporizhzhia directions. In Zaporizhzhia direction, the armed forces of Ukraine attempted to launch 44 attacks at positions of the Russian forces to no avail. To reinforce efforts to break through Russian forces' defenses, one of the last formation of armed forces of Ukraine's strategic reserve, namely 71st Jaeger Brigade, is deployed in this direction. As a result of committed and competent actions of the Zaporizhzhia group of forces units, all armed forces of Ukraine attacks have been successfully repelled. Over the past week, more than 960 Ukrainian troops, 24 armored fighting vehicles of different modifications, 28 motor vehicles, and 45 field artillery guns have been neutralized. Severe armed forces of Ukraine manpower losses in the course of so-called counteroffensive are caused by the Russian forces' effective strikes at Ukrainian armored hardware at distant approaches. Armed Forces of Ukraine Formation Command purposefully throws manpower and assaults as cannon fodder to cross Russian forces' minefields on foot with no fire support. In South Donetsk direction, the most intensive battles took place south of Staromerskoye, Donetsk People's Republic. Professional command and control, cohesive actions of the Russian troops with support of aviation and artillery thwarted the enemy's offensive plans. Combined strikes and committed actions of the Vostok group of forces repelled all armed forces of Ukraine attacks. Over the past week, the enemy has suffered losses of up to 1,025 Ukrainian troops, 13 armored fighting vehicles, 26 motor vehicles, as well as 26 field artillery guns. In Donetsk direction, numerous attempts of the Ukrainian Soldar group of troops to break through Russian forces' defenses near Kleshchivka and Maloy-Leonovka, Donetsk People's Republic, have been foiled. During the week, the Russian forces repelled 36 attacks in which the enemy has lost up to 2,385 Ukrainian troops, 30 tanks and other armored fighting vehicles, 75 motor vehicles, and 21 field artillery guns. In Kupiansk direction, the Zapad group of forces improved tactical situation by seizing enemy strongholds and key heights. Armed forces of Ukraine units suffered heavy damage due to skillful use of weapons. Over the past week, the enemy has suffered losses of up to 470 Ukrainian troops, 22 armored fighting vehicles, 21 motor vehicles, as well as 18 field artillery guns. In Krasny Lyman direction, the center group of forces repelled 14 armed forces of Ukraine attacks over the past week. The enemy has suffered losses of up to 540 Ukrainian troops, 22 armored fighting vehicles, 13 motor vehicles, as well as 10 field artillery guns. In Kherson direction, the main goal of Russian troops was to deliver strikes at armed forces of Ukraine manpower, engage in counter-battery warfare, search and eliminate sabotage and reconnaissance groups, as well as impede enemy amphibious assaults on islands. According to the data provided by prisoners of war from the 123rd Territorial Defense Brigade, the majority of armed forces of Ukraine personnel waved to cross the Dnieper River as they are afraid of inevitable death from Russian strikes. In this direction, the enemy has lost up to 230 Ukrainian troops, 31 motor vehicles, and 19 field artillery guns over the past week. The Black Sea Fleet monitors the situation round the clock in the Black Sea waters by all means of reconnaissance. On 29 to 30 August, the Black Sea naval aircraft managed to foil armed forces of Ukraine's Special Operation Detachment's attempt to land on Crimean coast to launch terrorist attacks. Russian naval aircraft neutralized 4 boats and up to 50 Ukrainian troops. Russian Aerospace Forces fighter jets and air defense units have shot down 4 Ukrainian Air Force aircraft and 1 helicopter over the past week. Air defense and electronic warfare systems have downed 35 MLRS shells, 6 JDAM guided bombs, 5 US-made HARM anti-radiation missiles, as well as 1 Neptune anti-ship cruise missile and 1 S-200 missile converted into a strike version over the past week. In addition, 281 Ukrainian unmanned aerial vehicles, including 2 141 Strizh drone, as well as 29 fixed-wing drones, were shot down in western regions of the Russian Federation. In total, 466 airplanes and 247 helicopters, 6,293 unmanned aerial vehicles, 434 anti-aircraft missile systems, 11,587 tanks and other armored fighting vehicles, 1,147 combat vehicles equipped with multiple launch rocket systems, 6,162 field artillery cannons and mortars, as well as 12,602 units of special military hardware have been destroyed during the special military operation. Thank you so much for watching this video. We hope you found it useful and informative. If you have any questions, please leave them below and we'll get back to you as soon as possible.